Next, Iran and the United States have stopped firing at each other for now. The next move, though, is already showing more disagreement. Washington says that Trump's envoys, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, are on their way to Doha for talks with Iran. The word from Tehran is that no such talks are scheduled. Fire was exchanged Saturday into Sunday after Iran attacked vessels on the Strait of Hormuz. So the Memorandum of Understanding, or the MOU, signed on June the 17th, a supposed prelude to peace talks, is looking more and more fragile. Here at France 24, Jenny Shin has this.
A pause in strikes after an exchange of fire over the weekend. The US and Iran have agreed to halt attacks for now and allow vessels to move through the Strait of Hormuz. But confusion remains for the next steps forward. Donald Trump says a fresh round of talks will take place in Qatar on Tuesday, despite an earlier denial from Tehran.
As far as we're concerned, we're holding up our end of the ceasefire. Violence will be met with violence, and the Memorandum of Understanding will continue to be discussed. The ceasefire is in place, and we hope that we can get to a good deal. The president will sign one that puts our nation's interests first.
The two nations signed a 14-point Memorandum of Understanding on the 17th of June. It calls for Tehran to dilute its stockpile of enriched uranium and waives US-backed sanctions on the country while opening the Strait of Hormuz. The MOU also included an end to military operations, but both nations have since accused the other of violating the ceasefire. Strikes resumed last Thursday after an Iranian projectile hit a cargo ship in the waterway, prompting retaliatory strikes from the US, and Iran responding by targeting US bases in Kuwait and Bahrain. It's a volatile situation tied to the wider conflict in the region. Tehran says Israel's hostilities in Lebanon must stop for a ceasefire deal to stick.
Let's bring in Barbara Slavin, Distinguished Fellow at the Stimson Center in Washington, for more on this. Barbara, always a pleasure to have you with us here at France 24. And I'm wondering, first off, what your take is on the current situation.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's great to be with you. It's not unexpected. This MOU was put together very hastily to give Donald Trump a way out of a war that clearly was not succeeding. And so I think a lot of us expected that there would be bumps in the road and even the possibility that this MOU is never really fulfilled. The United States is trying to establish the old rules of the road in the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran has made it very clear that there are new rules and that Iran has to be in control and informed about all traffic. It wants to make sure that cargo ships are not using a route that hugs the coast of Oman. They want to be able to maintain some sort of control over what goes in and out. So that's what we're seeing now. Hopefully there will be some way to deconflict. The MOU was supposed to set up a variety of mechanisms for deconfliction, but as far as we know, that hasn't happened yet. And even though the Iranians are denying that they're going to talk to the Americans in Doha, probably there will at least be messages passed.
So we think there may be some kind of discussion happening Tuesday in Doha, but of course we'll wait and see how it develops. Iran and the US, for now, not firing at each other. Do you feel this will last?
Hard to say. I mean, I think we're going to see, was it the Secretary General of the UN, Guterres, who said that instead of ceasefire, we see less fire. So it's not peace. But it's not full-scale war, and neither side wants that to resume. Iran is looking to recoup some of its enormous financial losses, and the United States, the Trump administration, doesn't want to see the price of gasoline go up again before our midterm elections. So I think we'll bumble along pretty much in the same way that we see imperfect, to say the least, ceasefires in Lebanon.
In a sidebar issue, Barbara, today there's been a Franco-Omani discussion. Emmanuel Macron playing host, of course. The upshot of that really displeasing the Iranians, who say that the only people who can demine the Strait of Hormuz is Iran. France has nothing to do with that. They're calling it a confusion. They're calling it a provocation. Do you think this intervention by Oman and France has been what Iran is calling it? Or do you think in some way it is actually going to help move things along?
Well, I think it's good to show that there are alternatives to the United States in terms of demining. And I know France has offered to be of assistance once the war is over. And France, of course, has important economic interests of its own to consider. So I'm not surprised by it. But it is clear that Iran wants to have the final say on what goes in or out, and possibly be able to charge some sort of fees as well. And I don't think that France can get around that.
Indeed, and it's worth pointing out before February the 28th, of course, there was no such thing as a fee to use the Strait of Hormuz. This is something very negative that's changed because of what has happened. It doesn't mean to say, of course, that it was plain sailing going that way. There were still risks, weren't there, before February the 28th?
Yeah, but nothing like this. Iran did not attempt to prevent ships going in and out. We didn't see attacks on shipping in this manner. Maybe I remember from the first Trump administration, after Trump withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal, there were some attacks on ships in the Persian Gulf by Iran and Iran-backed groups, but nothing like what we saw, obviously, during the war and after the war started. So this is new, and it's a consequence of a war that should never have been started.
Who is going to be the biggest winner coming out of this? Because clearly Donald Trump will say that he's won. The Iranians will pitch it their way. Are you seeing a particular player in the middle of this, slightly removed, perhaps further to the east, China, perhaps, who might say that they're winning the most?
I don't think there are any winners in wars, and particularly in this war. But yeah, if there is a relative winner in all of this, it probably is China, which has come across looking as a responsible international player, one that condemns aggression, and that facilitates peace talks, as we saw that the Pakistani mediation, I think, had a lot of support and perhaps some guidance from the Chinese. So if anyone comes out well, I suppose it's China. But this war should never have been fought. Iran was in the midst of negotiations with the United States about its nuclear program. The program had been largely destroyed by last summer's strikes. There was absolutely no need for this. And of course, the biggest losers are people in poor countries who are seeing the price of oil go up, the price of fertilizer go up, millions who are now going to face hunger and poverty because of this war.
Barbara, earlier we spoke about the announcement of talks. You said that you expect there'll be some kind of movement from Tehran on this issue. And as we're talking, it's popped up in front of me. Iran says expert delegation heading to Qatar this week. So you saw it coming with that clairvoyance of yours. Can you tell us what you think Iran will be looking for? What do you think they're going to be pushing hard to get? What will Washington be trying to sort of get out of this discussion?
Yeah, Iran, put all of its wishes into that MOU, that 1.5-page document. It would love to see sanctions lifted so that it can trade freely with everyone. It wants an end to the Israeli occupation of southern Lebanon and Israeli strikes on Lebanon. And it put that in the MOU. It wants to be able to freely sell its oil, not just for 60 days, but for far longer than that, to be able to sell its oil in US dollars. All of this was put into the MOU, and Iran would like to get as many of these benefits as possible. But for now, it will only observe the 60 days and only in return for specific incentives. The other issue, of course, is frozen assets, billions in frozen assets. And Iran is expecting that it's going to start getting control over some of those billions very soon.
Barbara Slavin, as always, thank you for joining us. Distinguished Fellow at the Stimson Center in Washington. Your insight, your analysis, greatly appreciated here at France 24. Thank you once again.
Thank you for asking.
We continue.